So let's move on to the next question, guys. In this question, we are given that AC is not equals to 0, A is equals to minus C, and then we are given two parabolas, y is equals to ax square plus b and y is equals to cx square plus d, right? And we have to tell whether both these parabolas intersect, they don't intersect, they are upwards, they are downwards, or they may or may not intersect, right? So before we proceed, I would just like to tell, for example, uh, if it is given that y is equals to ax square, right? So if any such equation is there, this means that it is a parabola where the power of x is to the power 2, right? So in this case, the parabola will look something like this, for example, where it is touching at the origin. Okay. Now, for example, if we have an equation like y is equals to ax square plus b, right? This means the parabola will look something like this. Why? Because if we put x is equals to 0 in this case, then y is equals to 0. That means this is one possible point, 0 comma 0. But in this case, if we put x is equals to 0, we get y is equals to b, which means this point, right? This point is 0 comma b. So this is just for your understanding that if we have an equation where the power is 2, the x power is 2, then it is a parabola. And if we have a constant which is added, right, then this will be facing like this. Okay, just for your understanding, right? Okay. So now in the question we are given that one parabola is y is equals to ax square plus b and the other parabola is y is equals to cx square plus d. Okay, okay, one more thing. For example, if y is equals to x square is a parabola, then this parabola will be facing upwards because this is 1 into x square, right? And 1 is positive. And if we have, for example, y is equals to minus 3x square, for example, basically what I mean is that this is plus 1 into x square, this is minus 3 into x square, then the parabola will be facing downwards. Okay, so if we have a negative coefficient over here, the parabola will be facing downwards. If we have a positive coefficient, the parabola will be facing upwards. So this is one thing which should be very clear, right? Perfect. Now, again, moving back to the question, we are given that y is equals to ax square plus b, right? And the other equation is y is equals to cx square plus d. Okay, but we also know that a is equals to minus c. That means if a is positive, c is negative, right? Or if a is negative, then c is positive. So we don't really care if a is positive or a is negative, but what we want to understand over here is that if this is of some sign, then c will be of the opposite sign, right? This means that if this is a parabola, right, for example, where a is positive, we assume, for example, a is positive, right, then it also means that c is negative, right? If a is positive, then c will be negative, right? This means that this parabola will be facing upwards because the coefficient of x square, which is a, it is positive, so it will be facing upwards, right? And we also know that it is ax square plus b, right? So we will have this parabola something like this, where this is b, right? This is 0 comma b, and it is facing upwards. Why? Because we have assumed a is positive, right? Now from here we know that y is equals to cx square plus d. This is the second parabola and c is negative, right? So there are two possible cases in this. If c is negative, that means the parabola will be facing downwards. So, and we know that this is d, right? But we also don't know the value of d. D can be positive or d can be negative. So let's say if d is positive, right? And d is positive such that d is greater than b. So this parabola will be something like this. Why? Firstly, because this will be facing downwards because C is negative, right? Second thing, because D is positive, right? And let's assume that D is greater than B. If D is greater than B, for example, if you put x0 over here, we get y is equals to D, which is this point, right? And we also know D is greater than B. So this is one possible scenario, right? Now the other possible scenario is, for example, the first equation remains the same. This is 0 comma b, right? For the second case, we'll know that the parabola will be facing downwards. But let's assume that in this case, d is less than b, right? The value of d is less than b, which means that the parabola can be something like this, or it can be something like this, or it can be something like this, because the value of d is less than b, right? So in this case, when d is greater than b, then the two parabolas intersect each other. This is one point of intersection, this is the second point of intersection. But in this case, if you see, the two parabolas do not intersect because the value of d is less than b, which we do not know, because d can be greater than b and d can be less than b also. It is not given in the question. So sometimes it may intersect or it may not intersect depending on the values of the given variables. So that is why your final answer becomes may or may not intersect. I hope this should be pretty clear. So what did we do is that because we knew that A and C are of opposite signs, that means one parabola will be facing upwards and the other parabola will be facing downwards, right? So one possible scenario is that these two intersect, and the other possible scenario is they do not intersect depending on these two values. So I hope this should be clear, pretty simple.